I can take a step back because I'm not in the mix right now and say, why does front desk work this way? And we can't do that in optical. What's happening? Where does it get to a point that you have to step in or I have to step in? And how do we fix that? All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast, very good episode for you today. We're talking about the business of optometry. What does it mean to be the CEO of your practice? How can you get it to be a business and not a job? We have the closing thought of the episode. This is the Ultimate OD podcast. Here we go. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast. We are getting close to the end of the year. How did you do? Where are you at? What goals did you achieve? What goals do you still hope to achieve this year? Right now, every one of you should be thinking about next year, the plans that you want to have going forward. I want to reflect back a little bit on what's happened to me in the past year. October 24, we moved into the new office. We are a year into it, and honestly, I think we're ahead of schedule. Things are going how I wanted them to go, but I didn't plan for it to be, I don't want to say this smooth, but they're really starting to take flight. The things I want to happen are happening, and we're really taking off. The new doctor is in the office. She's part of the office, and she's thriving. New staff is starting to follow through and come together as a team. The front desk and my technicians are working amazing. Opticians are coming along. They're starting to bond. We're getting them together. The Rejuvenation Dry Eye Center is growing like gangbusters. It's all coming together. It's been really fun to see. I'm seeing patients 3 days a week. One of the big things that have changed is how much I've downscheduled my schedule. On Mondays, I would see like 25 comps a day. Now in 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have 24 comps. The rest are dry eye evaluations or, medical visits, but mainly dry eye. And between me and my associate, the past 2 months, we've both signed, between the two of us, 25 new signups for our treatments and therapies. It's coming together. In ending this year, we have a new associate coming on in April. It's awesome. It's really fun to see, and it's been intentional. I'm speaking at the P3 conference this November in about 2 weeks. I'll be there. One, excited to meet with my mastermind group, share the success I've had this past year, as well as the changes I've made because of the things that we've talked about. All of this, when I look back and see how I've got here the past 2 years, in 23, I started with National Strategic and joined P3. And both of those have allowed me to be intentional in what I'm doing. And my intentionality and focus and not getting off that path has had me had the most growth. I think year over year from 23 to now, up 60%, right? So 30% both years. It's been really awesome. Okay. And that leads me to what I want to talk about today. The topic today is the business of optometry. Okay. As I go through and look back at what I did the past, 2011 till 23, I don't think I was actually operating as a business owner. Yes, I owned a business, but I had a job. And I'd show up every day and trade time for money, right? That's a job. If I wasn't there, we weren't getting paid. Now, again, there'd be a contact lens order or two. They could sell glasses. But if I wasn't there for a week, we'd really dip down and we wouldn't be sustainable. Now, if I'm not here, the office can still function and thrive. And that's been a really cool thing to see. I'm not going to lie to you. One of my ego things that I'm taking a shot at, and I told my associate this, the end of 26, I got to put this on my goal sheet, is I do not want to be the top producer in the practice. I'm going to work like crazy to be in the 3 days that I'm there, but my current associate or the new associate that will be there every day, they should outproduce me, right? Just from sheer volume, what they're going to get. Uh, that's my hope, right? And that means I built a great business. And that leads me to what a business owner really needs to focus on. And I talk about this a lot, but these three things I really have dialed in the past 2 years, and that's when I've had the most growth. It's your culture, looking at numbers, and I call it teams or systems, right? Teams or systems is, yes, you want to build a team, get the right people on the bus, but you got to have systems in place. So if you remove someone from that team, it still functions. And that's what we've really focused on this past 2 years. Is I have a scorecard that I give out weekly. Every one of our staff members knows it. We look at the numbers, and those numbers dictate what we do, how we talk about things, how we schedule our training, what our emphasis is. They're important, right? And we have to get all over those, right? Culture, the past 6 months since my last P3 meeting, has been the most I've ever put into culture. And I have a little story about that I'll get into, but culture is what drives your business. And you're going to have a culture regardless of what you set or not. Every business, every practice, every team has a culture. You're either coaching it up or you're just allowing it to happen. But there is a culture there. Okay. And then systems, I have a new manager, and she's been amazing at helping me instill the culture and developing systems. And what I do is I say, hey, this is where our issue is. This is what we need to go. How do we fix this? And I can take a step back because I'm not in the mix right now and say, why does front desk work this way and we can't do that in optical? What's happening? Where does it get to a point that you have to step in or I have to step in? And how do we fix that? Oh, I didn't think about it that way. So it's cool because I can have big picture and then she can implement and make it happen. That's huge for growth. When I was the one that had to do everything, it is so hard to not be emotionally invested, not to get caught up in the minutia. By being, removed from the day-to-day operations in a sense, you have a better perspective to implement change. And that's something that I don't think you do enough when you don't have an associate or if you're in clinic 5 days a week. You have to get out of the practice, get out of the rat race, and look at what's happening to the business. You'll be surprised what you see and the changes that you can make when you give yourself the ability to observe the business. Okay? Now, the story I had about culture. I'm reading a book. Charles Duhigg is the author. I think the title of the book is called The Power of Habit. And really interesting story. A new CEO was hired for Alcoa. It's aluminum or steel company. And when he came in, instead of giving a rah-rah speech, he gave a speech of, I want us to be the safest workplace ever. We shouldn't have any injuries reported. And again, they're a steel company. They're just got machines that could rip your arms off. They have a lot of high, like manufacturing type things, right? And when he came in and gave that first speech, all the investors looked at him like, well, what about our inventory? What about our buying, policies and such? He's like, all important, but I want to focus on the safety of our workers. And people left that meeting and said, this guy is crazy, sell, sell, sell. And I believe during his tenure, he had the biggest growth that the company's ever seen, right? They've done very well. They did very well. And when they broke down what he was doing, his strategy was, people argue with me about inventory. They'll argue with me about procedures X, Y, or Z. But not a single manager, not a single person was going to argue with me about the safety of a worker. Managers knew if a worker was out sick, we'd lose productivity. If people are getting hurt or you're worried about getting hurt when you go to work, that's not a place you want to be. What he found was when you focus on something little like safety, the downstream effects cascaded and got the results he was looking for. So in their business, when they looked at safety, that means they had to dial in their procedures. They couldn't go here or there. They had to be very precise and efficient in what they did, because if you got off, the procedure, or you were lazy or whatnot, that's when people get hurt. So by doing things like something simple like safety, it made everything run more effectively and efficiently. And then he could fill in the blanks about buying, inventory, etc. But he got them to focus on something that no one would argue with. And from that, it had downstream effects. The thing that I've done in my office is I've had my core values. And one of the things I've emphasized more than anything else is working together, taking care of each other. Yeah, we need to take care of patients, but you need to take care of the person next to you first. And instead of focusing on patients, focusing on each other, the downstream effects are we take better care of the patients. They have more pride in their job. They have more pride in seeing the numbers of a group. They build each other up. They shout each other out. By looking at something as simple as working together as a team and emphasizing that in every one-on-one meeting, in every group meeting that we have, that's allowed us to grow. And I didn't realize what I was doing, how I was doing that, until I read that book and heard it. I'm like, that's exactly what I did without knowing it. Is you find something small and it has downstream effects. And people will ask, what did you do? What did you change? I'm like, well, we have the core values, we have our scorecard, and we stick by it. That's what we do. We don't get off the beaten path. And it sounds like hocus pocus. It sounds like he doesn't really know what he did. Well, now I can tell you, I took the focus from all the other ancillary things. I took all the noise and focused us in on the signal, right? And the signal is doing these little things. There's 5 core values, right? But working together as a team. They know the numbers that matter to them. Those are the things that got us to the next level. So when you're being the business owner, the CEO, what is the message that you're putting out? Is it a bunch of noise, a bunch of random things that no one can hone in on? Or are you beating the same drum? Are you focusing them like a laser on the outcomes that you want? That is going to give you a better operating business. And because I focus on culture, because I focus on those things, we can now ask them, well, this is what we need to do. Where's the stumbling block? Why are you having trouble at this point? And because they're invested as a team, they can look at each other and say, we need to do this together. And we've had better systems be put into place, right? So because I have a better culture of focus, we've developed better systems, and it's given me better numbers, right? See how it all works together. But the point of this was I never did that until I stepped out of the exam room. I stepped back away from the day-to-day operations. I am less involved with the front desk and the optical than I ever have. But I still meet with them. I still have connection, but it's more big picture. And when they come to me with problems and such, my office manager is in the day-to-day rut. She's in that grind. I can offer her perspective. I can give her direction on how to approach a subject. And sometimes it's just being blunt and having a flat, straight out conversation, which I'm more apt to do now than I ever have before. But I can see things so much more clearly because I step back from the operations. That's the takeaway. Those are the things to focus on, but start on the things that matter and you'll be surprised what happens downhill. Now, just a sidebar to that comment. As I get close to 26 and 27, my goals, one of them is adding another location. It's whether RDEC, Rejuvenation Dry Eye Center, becomes its own tertiary care center. I acquire another office. I don't think I'm looking to start cold. It'd have to be a very unique situation for me to start cold. That being said, when I look at what happened to me when I started my second office the first time, or I've talked to other practice owners who have a second office, or I see from afar people that have a second office. The people that don't succeed are the people that are half in or they have poor systems. That I had poor systems, right? And I wasn't all in because I wouldn't hire another doctor. Would have changed things completely. I didn't have a great system or team because I had no other leader in the office. It was everyone just showing up to work and me trying to guide them where I want them to be, right? But that's the thing that I really question and wonder. Like, I want to grow and expand, but to do that, to go to the next level, I'm going to have to step out even more from clinic. And that's what I have to ask myself is, do I really want to be out of clinic? Do I really want to grow the business and have that multiple location thing? Because once you go down that path, you have to be all in. Otherwise, it's going to fail. And I've seen doctors that have been in that situation. That's something I'm trying to figure out. But I'll tell you this right now. When I get to be outside the clinic and see it run amazingly, like my associate has a great day. And I was working on the business, talking about culture, numbers, my team systems, trying to grow and being able to mentor another future optometrist, someone that needs guidance, stuff like that. It's the happiest I've ever been, right? It's really cool to see, but I can't do that unless I do the things I talked about in this episode. If you want to get to the next level, if you want to have options that I just outlined, you have to do what I talked about in this episode. So take it for what's worth, but to get to the next level, you need to get out of the exam room. You need to focus on that culture, on your numbers, on your teams and systems. That's what I have for you. We'll have more for you next week. Where has the time gone? We're to the closing thought of the episode. And one of the things I've ran across in the past few weeks was finding your passion, right? People say that, they put it out there a lot. And it's really almost cliche at this point because your passion sometimes will not make you money, right? A lot of these students that go to school and major in, I don't know, modern dance. Let's say nothing against modern dance, but modern dance usually is not going to be a lucrative career. And if it is, it's 1% out of like a million, 1,000, whatever, that does it really well and can make a living off of that and support things, right? So that follow your passion thing is a misnomer in my book. However, once you've achieved what we have, and that's, going to school, starting your own practice, becoming a doctor, right? We have a very good income. We have a very good life. Finding your passion is what allows you to be more than just an optometrist in such a way that you don't just identify with what you do as who you are. And one of the stats I read, and this will be a whole podcast in itself, I'm sure, was when people sell their business, 3 out of 4, 75% are unhappy when they do that. And that says something about you. They make the sale and it's a good value, $50 million. Their needs are met, but they're unfulfilled. They're unhappy, right? Even though they have money in the bank and they have safety, that financial security, when they're not pulling in pay every single week or, bi-weekly, monthly, they feel less adequate, right? And that's where this passion thing comes from. You only live once. Make sure you're doing work that feels like play. Yes, but I think that there's more to that. And some of the advice that I'd heard from someone who'd sold their business and had to come back and find happiness outside of what they define themselves as their career, they said it's 3 things: your purpose, build community, and prioritize your health. And that purpose thing, I talk about it often. Like, I love to give hope, educate, and advise. I love coaching 7th and 8th grade football. That's given me community, but it's given me a purpose outside the office. I like mentoring these kids, and by being part of that, when I go to the varsity games, I'm part of a community. I interact with the other coaches. I have a group of people around me that we're cheering. It feels good to be involved. My kids are with me at that game, right? Through those interactions, I have people that come up to me and I've been able to mentor them. They're in their early 20s and trying to make a path for themselves. And me at 42 now, I've lived life a little bit. I have a little advice to give, and that's awesome, right? It has nothing to do with optometry. They're not in the medical field, but they are looking for guidance, someone that's accomplished something. And we, as optometrists, have done so much and we don't realize it, but we can give back in that sense. I've had opportunities to sponsor meals or events or whatnot. Students, teachers will call and say, hey, we have a student, no insurance, needs glasses. Can you help them out? That's a bigger purpose in the business. It gives me a purpose for the business outside of me making money, right? I get to do those things. And I think the sooner we figure that out as optometrists, as business owners, the better off we'll be long term. The less invested you are, the less time you're spending in your business, and the more well balanced you are, studies have shown you have a better business. The people that are in the business 24/7 and do nothing else have a less successful business than their equal counterpart that has a life outside of work. So, ironically, paradoxically, the less time you're in the office, the more successful you can be. Now, that comes with a grain of salt. There's a lot of things you have to do with that, but it's something to chew on, something to think about. That's what I got for you. Dr. Lilly out.